Down the right field line, pretty well hit. LaVarn way is the right way here tonight.
Yogi Berra said it's 90% mental, the other half is physical. My name is Ryan LaVarnway, Major League catcher and minor league grinder, and I've spent the last 15 years playing professional baseball while evolving my mindset. I'm fascinated by optimizing that 90%. In this show, I'll talk to elite athletes and mindset coaches about what makes them tick and how they've overcome obstacles in their own careers on the way to finding success. This is Finding the Way. Hey guys, welcome to Finding the Way. This is Ryan LaVarnway, and today I am joined by Betsi Flint. If you haven't heard of her, that's because you don't follow volleyball, because she is absolutely crushing it. Just won her 7th AVP championship. She played college volleyball at Loyola Marymount, and her teammate, Kelly Kalinske, were the youngest female team to take home an AVP championship. She was also Newcomer of the Year. Betsi, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So you are from the Midwest. How did you start playing beach volleyball?
Yeah, originally from South Dakota. I grew up playing all the sports, basketball, watched my sister play volleyball, played softball. We moved to Arizona and I got more into volleyball. One of my best friends played beach volleyball, so I was like, oh, let's go do it. I was so bad to start. It's such a hard sport, and it's way different than indoor volleyball. But over the years, obviously, I've gotten better and grown and learned, and that's how I got into it.
Did you naturally play sports that were for taller people? You're 5'10", which is above average. Did you just gravitate towards basketball and volleyball because of that, or just because you liked it?
I liked it. My brother, my sister played. In South Dakota, yeah, you play everything. So there's no, you're not specializing early. Especially, I'm 31 now, so I feel like back when we were playing, you didn't specialize early. You were just playing a ton of sports. So those were just my favorite. I was competitive and just wanted to win. And then whatever I did, eventually when I went to school at LMU in LA, we got beach volleyball my sophomore year. It became an NCAA emerging sport. So it was the best of both worlds to be able to play beach and indoor, which meant I was pretty much always in season. We had fall, indoor, and spring beach, but I loved it. I feel like some people could get burned out by that, but I loved it.
Interesting. So you went to college to play indoor volleyball. Did you have a scholarship?
Yes, scholarship indoor, but beach was always my love, and it wasn't a sport in college yet. So it was just awesome when it became a sport.
Yeah, and then so what was your dream, or how far did you want to take it? Was this just a hopefully it'll get me to college, it'll help me get an education, or did you always have aspirations of the Olympics, which you're in training for now?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was like a young athlete that was like, oh, I'm going to Olympics, like you hear of some. I just really loved doing it. I love competing, and I love going to watch the AVP beach volleyball events. One of my best friends always went with her family, and I was like, this is pretty cool. I never thought that I would be doing it until my first year at college. My partner and I ended up winning a tournament. We slowly continued to get better, and I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can play professionally. I kind of was treating it as a little bit of a hobby the first year, and then I was like, all right, let's do it.
So you mentioned that it was more of a hobby for you, and then at one point you realized maybe this could be something you do, something you pursue and be really good at. Talk me through that mindset shift, because that's what this podcast is really about, right? Is sometimes people always think they're destined for greatness from a young age, and some people realize it with a light bulb moment. Talk me through that.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if I'd say hobby. I took it seriously and I was training hard and I wanted to do well. But yeah, it was that realism of okay, is this gonna happen? Is it, you see people, we don't make a lot of money. Beach volleyball, there's not a ton of money. So it's really hard to think that it's possible. As we continue to get success, I was like, all right, let's try some international, and internationally went well. And again, it was kind of that realization of okay, I can do this. I have the skills, I have the determination, at this level, a lot of it is the mindset, it's the mentality that gets you to the next level.
When I was in high school, I lived in California, and we used to go to the beach, just drive to Malibu all the time. And my buddy Brandon and I would play volleyball just on the beach in Malibu. And a couple courts down from us, Misty May Trainer and Carrie Walsh would be playing. And Brandon always wanted to go challenge him. And I was smart enough to stay away from getting our butts kicked and the sand wiped. But talk to me about, did you have role models? Did you watch those two in particular play the same way I did in the Olympics every 4 years?
For sure. Yeah. I think Misty May has always been a role model. Like she's a little like undersized per se for beach volleyball. She gets the best out of her partner and she's just consistent and solid. So she's been definitely a role model. But yeah, there's a lot of like strong female women out there that, especially now, like one of our coaches is April Ross, and she's the reigning Olympic gold medalist. And it's awesome to have her in our corner believing in us, and she's a great role model and has good words of wisdom too.
You said Misty May gets the most out of her partner. I don't know a lot about the camaraderie that goes in a partnership in beach volleyball. How does that relationship work? How much communication is there? Do you feel like you're thinking along the same lines as each other, or how does that work between you two?
Yeah, ideally. I mean, chemistry is a huge part of beach volleyball. We're spending so much time with each other off the court and on the court. And then just learning like what makes your partner tick and what brings the best out of them. I think being a good teammate is an undervalued skill that can go a long way, whether it's sports or not sports. And just learning like, yeah, what makes your partner better, what communication style, what helps them, what do they need when they're struggling. And that's a huge part of it and part of something we discuss early on in the season and continue to touch on.
Let's get into the nitty gritty a little bit, because that's so high level and you know exactly what you're talking about. But I want to understand, and I want our listeners to help understand too. When you say like, what your partner needs when she's struggling, or what do you need when you're struggling? How does that conversation go?
Yeah, we've worked with sports psychologists in the past that help us like kind of spell this out early on in the season, because we're going to have adversity. Like we're playing a sport. You're never winning all the time. Like only one person's winning at the end of a tournament. There's going to be adversity. So having a plan in action can help. And for me, I love when my partner is telling me like, is problem solving, like moving me on to the next play, like what maybe could be open, what's been effective, like where I'm hitting from on the court, like, is this working for me? And just communicating those details, the more it is about like, what's going to help me next, the better. If we're talking about like the past play or being really reactive, that just gets me like more overanalyzing, overthinking. So that helps me. And my partner wants to be told like directly what to do. Maybe less like problem solving and more like, okay, just go do this. So it's learning like, yeah, we have different styles and we're both going to be struggling. Maybe even in the same match, we've got to find a way to make each other better.
Have you found that having the different natural communication style, you have to speak her language and she has to speak your language, even though that's not the way you would naturally speak? How do you overcome that?
Yeah, it's hard. It's something we always have to be mindful of, even when we're communicating about our sets. I take things so literally, like she'll say up and down, and I'm like setting her like literally up and down, and she doesn't want that. And I'm like, that's what I want. So we have to like, we're still like working through these things. This was a conversation we had like this week in practice, and Julie and I have been playing together for almost a year now. So yeah, it's just constant communication and figuring out like, yeah, what's going to help us win this point. It's easy and hard to like separate, like it's never an attack on each other, but just being mindful, like, okay, we're just trying to win this point and we just got to figure out like, yeah, the language we need to speak to each other.
When I've seen volleyball matches before, they hold fingers behind their back to the server. What are you communicating with that?
Yes, we are telling each other like where we're blocking. So our defensive setup.
Okay.
So if, yeah, my partner is holding up a 1, she's blocking the line and I'm taking the angle. If she's holding up a 2, it's opposite. So she's blocking the angle and I'm digging the line. So it's just communicating about strategy and like we talked about it beforehand, maybe people's tendencies and where they're based on like where they're hitting on the court and what we want to do and get them to do. So it's just the nuances and yeah, communicating then in the rally too.
And there's scouting reports that you do, or you watch film on the people you're going to play?
Yeah, we watch film. We have a video analyst who sends us like data and information on opponents, which is really helpful for me. I don't think all the teams enjoy that, but I like seeing all the little things and kind of like just putting in the back of my head as data. And I don't need to use it necessarily each point, but just knowing it's back there and then being able to read and do what I want to do in the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so cool to learn about what other sports do to prepare and make sure that they have all the information they need and then sort through what's usable. That's something that I've experienced so much in my career as the information available has grown to a level where you couldn't consume it all, at least in baseball. So thank you for sharing that. I know you're an Olympic hopeful, and the Olympics are coming up soon. What does the qualification process look like for you for volleyball, and just really what does the road look like?
Yeah, it's a long process for beach volleyball. We started in January and it goes until next June, and it's your best 12 events. So we're playing as many tournaments as you want, but they take in consideration your best 12 events, and then the top 15 in the world will qualify for the Olympics, and then there'll be some like continental bids as well, some that can go another route. But for us, it's like USA honors the top 15, and I think I don't even know where we are right now. I try not to like overthink all the points, and there's like it's confusing, a handful of different points for like seeding and Olympic ranking and world ranking. We're in a really good spot. We are the number 3 USA team, and only 2 get to go. So it's a battle with each other. It's a battle against international players. But it's a battle. It's a grind. It's a long season. We're already managing injuries and trying to figure out, how to get the best out of each tournament.
That's so amazing. I want to ask some more specific questions about your mindset with that. So you're the number 3 team, and there's so many cliches about play like you're the underdog, or practice like you're the underdog, play like you've never lost before, whatever it is like that. How do you manage when you play against the 1 and 2 teams? Do you feel more pressure? I know recently you knocked off the number 1 in the world team. Congratulations. And you're also coming off a tournament win.
And yes, we knocked off the number 1 team in the world our last international tournament, which was incredible. We had no business winning that game. We were down in the 3rd set. So we played a 15 in the 3rd set, and we were down 14-9.
Okay.
And so they just needed to side out 1 ball to win. And we came back and won, I think, like 18-16, which, looking back, there's a statistician that said there was a 0.4% chance of us winning that match. And a lot of that was us just like foot on the gas. They were messing around a little bit, just thought they had it in the bag. And I think we just got determined and just focused on each play. We didn't really care at that point what was going to happen. We're just trying to stay present and just work our hardest to finish strong, and it worked to our advantage. But we try to have that mindset, like whether we're playing, the top team or the lowest ranked team, like just foot on the gas, no matter what it is. And no matter what the score is, like whether we're up by a lot, down by a lot, we want to be playing the same. And this last tournament in AVP Manhattan Beach, which actually doesn't count for Olympic ranking, unfortunately.
Bummer.
But it's like our Wimbledon. It's the granddaddy of them all, they call it. And we get our name, solidified on the pier. They have a plaque that they'll put there next year. But we lost our first round. So we are the 1 seed. We lost to the 32 seed, which is not always very likely. But that just kind of definitely put a dagger in our heart originally. But we had to reset and play again in a few hours. And I felt that helped us like just be way more urgent. And every match was like championship match, because we came in and we're like, we're winning this tournament. And we just made it really hard on ourselves. We went from having to play 6 matches minimum to now maybe 9, which is a big difference. And my partner, has some injuries. So it was not ideal. But it helped us just stay way more present and just locked in each moment. And it wasn't easy, but we made it happen. We played through a tropical storm and we did it.
Yeah. The hurricane, we try not to make these podcasts too time relevant, but you can tell when we're recording this
Oh,
based
yes. Sorry.
the only hurricane that hit LA in the last however many years. No, that's amazing. And you talk about we just buckled down. We should have lost. We only had 1 point to go. We fell into the losers bracket in the next tournament. People have been trying to bottle that sense of urgency, or that like never say die spirit, that mindset, that urgency for forever, right? Since the beginning of time. How do you bottle it for you? How do you try to replicate that moment of the other team has match point or game point, or we just lost to the last ranked team in this tournament? It's time to go right now. Like, what does that look like for you? What does that feel like for you?
Yeah, that's a question, because I know you're a high level athlete. You understand it's really hard to replicate. And again, that's ideal. That's what we want to do. A lot of it's talking with each other, and it's our communication and how we're going to come in. Like, we're going to come in like super focused with the game plan. I think once like that happened, we lost our first round. We were like, it was like just so business like we're not messing around, like everything from here on out. Like, I was probably smiling a lot less, which is fine. I was just way more like dialed in. Like, I don't care what the noise is around me. I don't care if people saw us lose, didn't, like, I just wasn't focused on the whole tournament. Like, everyone, I don't look at the matchups. I didn't see who was playing who and who lost to who. I was like, I'm just going to be locked in on me and not worry about anyone or anything else. I wish there was a magic trick to like replicate, that urgency, but I think a lot of it is just reminding each other like our strengths. And one of mine is definitely the determination and just the grit and will to win. So just trying to remember that. And it's not easy when there's a couple matches I didn't feel like I was playing my best. And it's hard because then I get like, you start overthinking a little bit. So I was just like, okay, I've got to have some positive self-talk here. I've got to like hype myself up and just kind of focus on like what I'm going to do next. And that helped me like get through that. And I was a little like shaky to start a couple matches and ended up like finishing a little bit more in rhythm and a little bit more in flow. So that helped.
You've mentioned this a couple times now over the course of this conversation of just focusing on the next thing, focus on the next step versus overanalyzing what just happened. Did I make a mistake, or did I not hit it exactly where I wanted to? How did you develop that focus on what's next mentality and understand that is what makes you your best?
Yeah, I don't know if there is like a certain moment, but I've learned for sure, like when I'm playing my best, I'm not thinking about what just happened, because I'm not trying to sabotage my partner. I'm not trying to sabotage myself. And if I'm reacting to like what just happened, it's not very helpful, because what the next play is not going to be the same at all. Like, beach volleyball varies so much. And I did develop a little bit of like that think box, play box mentality. I know that's kind of and they do it in baseball. I've worked with Bernie Holiday, who works with the Pirates.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, he's awesome. And he brought that in. And like when I step into my serve receive spot, like I don't want to be thinking about anything other than like my mantra or like reading that serve. And so to keep kind of like the thinking outside of that box, and thinking's okay, it's going to happen, but trying to separate it. And the more I'm locked into my routine, the better I am at siding out. And the same for serving. The more time I take and just go through my routine, the better I am executing at it.
Yeah. So for anyone listening that doesn't know the think box, play box metaphor or routine, the metaphor is the batter's box in baseball. When the batter steps out, which they're technically not allowed to do anymore, except with one foot. But you step out of the box to think, and then when you step back into the box, it's go time. Thoughts are done. And Betsi, you mentioned your mantra, or what is your mantra? What are you trying to think about when you step out, so that when you go back in, you get the best out of yourself?
Yeah, it can vary, but ideally it's serve me. Like when I'm stepping in, it's like serve me. Like I want this ball.
Okay.
And then depending on like, maybe I'm not feeling great at siding out, it'll be like, all right, read the set. So it can vary a little bit, but I try to keep it consistent. And it's hard to be locked in on, the same thing over and over again. I'm doing it, I don't know, at least 40 times. I don't know, 40 plus times. I have no idea a game. So I notice when I'm going through that, like I'm passing better, I'm siding out better, I'm having vision of the other side. So it's really important for me.
I feel like you're helping me visualize being in the moment with you right now so much. So thank you. It's like, I feel like I can feel the emotions of like, just serve it to me. Give me the ball. Like, I want the ball. And you hear so many of the greatest athletes saying, I want the ball all the time. And then I also hear you saying something to the effect of how cruise control can be your biggest enemy. Right? You receive 40 in a game or 100 over the course of a day. And if you're not focused, you're not your best.
Yeah. And being okay with like, I like to shake off the end line or dig rocks out of the sand. And that's kind of my space to like mentally not be right there. And that way I get a little break so I can relock in when I get back into my serve receive spot.
I found that chewing gum or sunflower seed. I imagine you don't spit sunflower seeds on the beach, but having some chewing motion going has helped me as a sort of distraction so that I can then focus on everything. Very cool. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Before I let you go, I always ask every guest the same question at the end of every episode, and that is, if you could speak to a young Betsi, or if you could speak to another young person with the same goals, same aspirations as you, what's the best advice you could give them?
I would say don't compare yourself to others. Like, even people who are on the same journey as you, their journey is going to look a lot different than yours. Like, some might have early success, some might have later success. And yes, sometimes it's hard to see. And we get so caught up in comparing, especially with social media, but just to stay locked in on like myself and to stay locked in on each day, like getting better, just even 2% better. And yeah, the more I'm focused on myself, the better I'm going to be. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I would say to my younger self.
Don't compare yourself to others. Focus on yourself. That's perfect. Betsi, thank you so much for joining me. I am Ryan Lavarnway. This has been Betsi Flint, AVP All-Star. I don't know if you do All-Stars.
Nope, but we do now.
This has been Finding the Way. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Finding the Way with Ryan Lavarnway. Find previous episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.